Good morning, everybody. This is Charlie with Hellhounds Run, and I'd like to invite you to episode 2 of our new series of podcast, Hellhounds Run Writes. And today we are going to discuss the timeline of success, if there is such a thing. So bear with me. I'm trying a new audio setup. Like I told y'all in the very first podcast, I'm learning. This is my very first podcast I've ever done, as well as the first podcast for Hellhounds Run. There's going to be audio blips. Right now, I've got somebody driving up and down the road outside. You're going to hear them because apparently they feel like they need to run their vehicle, at 900 decibels. I don't get it, but whatever. But we're here with you. We're here in North Carolina. It is a balmy 30 degrees, and anybody who's listened to the first broadcast knows that I have to turn off my heater to record this, or you're not going to hear anything other than the heater. So I am freezing my butt off to bring this content to you, my faithful listeners, which I really appreciate you tuning in. If you have not yet, please go to whatever platform that you're using and subscribe, follow, download, however that platform works, because we're on multiple. So it would be stupid to say subscribe if you're listening to, a place where you have a follow link instead of a subscribe link. My name is Charles M. Brown. I am the author of 5 books, including Nihil, Gaith's Redemption, Exploits of a Underpaid Supernatural Bartender, and From Hell and Back. And those span the length from gothic horror, gothic romance, horror satire, to poetry. So pretty much whatever you're into, I probably got a book for it. You can check out all our works at hellhoundsrun.com, and I'll quote a local, advertiser. That's hellhoundsrun.com, hellhoundsrun.com. A little bit of comedy for you today. Does anybody else ever get the feeling that they're on an NPR broadcast when they make one of these? It's like my grandpa's old radio news channel. I feel like I'm back in time in that. Anyway, enough color, because I've been 2.5 minutes and y'all probably want to get to the meat of this thing. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of the timeline of success. That's what I call it. And how we as indie authors, me being one of them, come into this with sometimes some unrealistic expectations on what success looks like. And I was listening to a book the other day, and I really want to credit the quote, but I don't remember which one, because I listen to multiple books throughout the day. I read throughout the day. I don't remember where the idea came from, but I know I've fostered this before. The idea is that success takes years and years, and when you finally make it, everybody calls you an overnight success, but that's because they don't see the years of struggle. And, a lot of people come to mind, and we're going to cover a few of those. I've had that theory for a while. And then I want to say it came from the book Atomic Habits. But I'm not 100% sure, and I just don't want to misquote it, but I don't want to not quote it either. It's a weird space as an author to not give credit for something. I don't think that's pretty cool. But, we come into this thinking, okay, I'll just write a book. And I'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread. This will be the greatest thing, and I'll make $1 million, and I'll be. It's unrealistic, but we put so much. Hopefully, if you're writing, you put so much of yourself, so much of your soul into that book, and then you find out the horrible truth as an indie publisher. One, you then have to become your own editor. Now, you can spend thousands, and I mean thousands, getting 3-4 different types of editors, throwing money down the tubes, and I'm going to come back and touch on that, but my question is, why? Now, after the editing phase and realizing that, if you don't have a budget and you're not independently wealthy, you're going to have to turn around and market your own books. And now, me personally, I got into this, and, I jump in feet first. I'm not the brightest individual. I am the definition of leap before you look. But, which would explain my marriages. But, the thing is, I got into this to write. I got into this to create new fiction. Even before I got sick, I had written Nihil before I got ill. And I'd written most of Exploits before I became ill. I got into this to create new fiction and to see people's faces light up when they read it, and, to be able to discuss lore and create new things. Yeah, no. I found out the hard way that after I've written the book, I have to edit it. No big deal. I'm a control freak. I don't want anybody else's opinions in my work, other than people that I trust, that I have that bond with. So okay, I edit it. No big deal. Then I figure out, hey, dude, without agents and publishing and, all this other stuff, your book's never going to get seen. Knowing the state of publishing, having researched the ever loving crap out of it, because that's what I do, I research everything to the point of being ridiculous. I find out that modern publishing is not the way it used to be. And to my indie authors, this is not going to be a surprise to you at all. The days of sending in a letter and a form and, a copy of your manuscript, and those days are pretty much done. I'm sure there are still people who do the traditional publishing, chasing your tail thing, but I read a recent article, and I, again, can't give the quote. I need to start saving these things, but it's my first series of podcasts, so I've got to build up a new library for this, that said that most traditional publishers won't even touch you until you've got a social media following of about 10,000 on like TikTok, stuff like that. And, it's going to bring me into my next point, but, traditional publishers don't really advertise your books anymore. They don't push you. They leave all that to the author. So my question becomes, why do I need them? If I take the time, so let's break this process down a little bit. Okay, I write the book. Okay, that's my job. I'm the writer. That's my bag. That's what I'm supposed to do. Full send. Here I am. Now I can either, from that point, pay somebody a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, to edit my book. Or I can be a good enough writer and have a good enough grasp of English, since that's my chosen language to write in, to know enough grammar to fix my book and to edit it. Leaving your book to edit to other people, you are going to miss some things. It's going to happen. That's why you have to go through it 3 or 4 times, and it's tedious and it's a pain in the butt. But for, $4,000 or $5,000, $1,500 to $5,000 is prices I've seen from different authors. I can read through my own book 3-4 times. If you're not good on grammar, here, I'm going to give you some tools. First is find any entry-level college or high-level high school textbook on English. Buy it. Open it up. Usually there's a chart either in the front or the back of that book that has almost every grammar rule you're going to need. There's a book by Barron's Publishing called Painless Grammar. I love these books. Back in 2000 and something, back when Moses rode dinosaurs, I had to get my GED. I learned what little I didn't have through the Barron's books. I use these books to teach my children grammar, English. I've got algebra. Oh, don't talk to me about algebra. I'm not a math person. But I use these books, and that book is one of the best primers I have ever seen for English grammar. Simple. Now, I can either spend $1,500 to $5,000 having multiple editors go through my book, send it back to me, piss me off because it's my nature, and maybe not even really get the gist of where I'm going, or I can do it myself. So I'm a self-type person. When I was growing up, my daddy ran a construction company. From the time I was 13 or 14, I was pouring concrete all summer, every summer. A few years ago at my house before my divorce, my front sidewalk was crumbling. I got an estimate just because my ex-wife wanted me to, and they wanted like $10,000, $12,000 to come out and redo this. And I'm like, okay, Charlie, you have a sledgehammer, you know how to pour concrete, you're really good at it, you have a float. I can give them $10,000, $15,000, or I can do for about $600. I think it was about $600 total. I can bust this up, pour another one, and go on a nice vacation. So instead of giving them several $1,000s, I took the time. I took a Saturday and busted it all out, dug it all out, and put down the gravel. And the next weekend that I was off, I went out there and poured the concrete, let it sit for 30 days. And yes, okay, my muscles were sore. Yes, I was tired. Yes, it was tedious. Yes, it was hot. Yes, it sucked. But I did it all myself. And I came out with that sense of, hey, I did this. Hey, I'm proud of this. I was much more proud of my work for pouring that concrete. Now, how does this relate to writing? Because you're sitting there scratching your head. Most likely. You may not be. You may totally get this. This may click with you, but I don't find it clicks with a lot of people anymore. When I had Nihil, okay, I'd finished it. I'd read through it. I found 2 continuity errors, and I was so glad that I did it because I found them so I didn't look like an idiot. But I took more pride everything that I did in The Hill and in my subsequent works, Gates Redemption, Exploits, all those, I took more pride out of every step that I took. Okay. I have an awesome, amazing partner, Scarlett Grimm. She is the co-owner of this business, Hellhound's Run. And none of this would come to you if it wasn't for her, because I don't understand what in the world a TikTok is, Facebook, I'm not good with technology. They're Terminators, I promise you. So she makes a lot of the merch and stuff, and she helped me design the cover. I took every step in this book. Okay, so I wrote it. I edited it. She went back through and checked it for me, and, 2 eyes are better, 4 eyes are better than 2. Oh, God, 2 eyes are better than 1. That's a weird thing. And we designed the cover. We designed the fonts. She put it into the, I don't know what you call it, but it's the software to get it to the publisher to format it into a book. That's her bag. I'm not good with it. And then she taught me Canva. I taught myself Adobe. I'm recording this on Adobe, so, please pray for me, because it's an evil platform and I hate it very much. I need holy water every time I hit record because it screws up so much. But I taught myself all these things. You can too. You can either give thousands of dollars you don't have as a beginning writer, as an indie author, to other people to do this, or you can do it, and it's pretty simple to learn. So bear that in mind. But let's talk about that timeline for success. I came in, with the misunderstanding that, this would be pretty simple. Get an agent, write a book, get an agent, get a few denials. I'd have a book deal. But the more I dug into how publishing works, the more I realized I did not want a book deal in any way, shape, or form. I did not want an editor to come in and tell me I needed more smut. I'm not a smut writer. There is smut in my books. Okay, there is. My books will never be released in a library because I don't want anybody under 18 to get their hands on them. Because there are some adult themes, and I just don't want to get involved in that. I'm killing myself on a market. That's fine. I'm not in the news in 20 years about, some really nasty stuff that's in my books, which there aren't anything really nasty, but there are adult themes. I don't want to be a party of that. When they turn 18, they can buy it in a bookstore. I went off on a tangent again. The squirrels got me. Peep, peep. So anyway, there's been a lot of controversy lately, and authors who, they'll get these book deals and they'll send their books out to all these chains, and the chains don't always put those books on the shelves for sale. And then the authors are on the hook when they're sent back, and they're losing millions. Because the author's on the hook for the actual book price, not for the author price. So they get that little advance and they get that little payout that's, a store has bought 1,000 copies of their books, and 90 days later, they're on the hook for the author price, not what you get paid as an author, which is a significant difference for every return of that book, because nobody else is going to foot that cost. There's one horror story that Grimm told me about of a lady who had to take out a second and almost a third mortgage on her house because she was being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she initially only got paid a couple thousand for the book release. So I want to avoid that. I don't want to get hemmed up in that. If I, as an author, have to write my book, it's my job. Edit my book, kind of my job. Market my book. Put my book on social media. Create a social media presence of thousands, tens, thousands. Get out there in front of everybody and push my book. Why do I need a publisher? Why do I need a publishing company? Yeah, that $1 million marketing budget would help. Oh my God, would it help? But why do I need them if I'm already doing all those jobs? So, let's look at some other authors for a minute. And this is the purpose of the podcast, but I went on my rant because, please bear with me, this is the third take and the fourth interruption because Adobe has shut down twice on me. So I got my stuff out of order, and I'm still learning how to podcast, so I'm not keeping this on the bullet points I had originally written down as a script. But, we talk about that success timeline. Let's look at some successful authors. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter series. It took her 7 years to get published. For some of the most amazing books out there, no matter how you feel about her, the books are awesome. That's my personal opinion, but it is what it is. 7 years. Stephen King, one of the most prolific writers out there at this time. And, his work's good. I like some of his work. Some of it doesn't appeal to me. It's not my kind of horror. But the dude does good work. Love his book on writing. I listen to it at least once a month. The man's got a lot of good insights. As an indie author, just as a side plug, I'm not affiliated in any way, but that's a good book. So Stephen King, it took him 9 years and over 30 rejections before Carrie was accepted anywhere. 9 years. George Orwell, everybody knows him from 1984, but he actually had his breakthrough, and there was another one. Oh Lord, I can't remember the name of Animal House. But he had a book before those, and it took him 5 years just to get published the first time, before just the smallest success, before he went on to greater successes. 5 years. Margaret Atwood took her 6 years to see any type of publication or success. And now here's my favorite. Now, here is a controversial figure if you ever study him. I'm going to say his name wrong because I've never gotten it right in my life. I'm going to do 2-3 pronunciations. Like him or hate him, figure him a drunk, a madman, a criminal, or whatever. He is one of the most awesome street poets of all time, in my opinion. And though I don't like his fiction, his poetry is the grittiest, touch your soul stuff in the world. And that's Charles Bukowski, or Bukowski, depending on how you pronounce it. It took him 20 years, folks. 20 years. Let that sink in for a minute. This man, he has a colorful history. As a drunk, he went into insane asylums, according to some articles. He was in jail several times. He started writing in the 50s and didn't see his first success until the 1970s. And let's put that into perspective. I'm an indie author. I published less than a year ago. I've already sold over 60 books, pretty much all direct sales, all from my work, my advertising, my website, ours, mine and Grimm's. I don't want to take credit that ain't mine. And, I'm struggling. I'm dying out here. I created this whole podcast, one, because it fascinated me and I felt like it needed to be done. But two, hey, it's another platform to, sit here and tell you about how awesome my books are. But think about that. These authors didn't have social media platforms. They didn't have a TikTok. They didn't have Canva. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have all these things. They had to go out there and, send off letters and copies of their manuscripts at a lot of cost, because it wasn't cheap, and wait months just to hear another denial or hear this isn't good enough or thanks, this isn't for us. So we as indie authors, we're struggling, and the market is glutted. The market is just full. But at the same time, we don't have the struggles that they have. I've been at this a little less than a year, and I can already feel the soul-crushing defeat, that feeling of screaming into the void and no one hearing me. I can't imagine what 5 years will feel like, what 20 years will feel like. I can't imagine hanging on that long and having that kind of tenacity just to realize a dream. But it's true, you struggle for years and years. Look at a lot of your Hollywood actors. They work for 20 years before they ever get a chance at being a lead. Most of your Hollywood actors look 20 and they're 40 or 50. Entertainment of any kind is one of those jobs where you spend decades building who you are just to get noticed and just to be called, oh my God, they're an overnight sensation. So, have realistic expectations. I did not, but I didn't know. I didn't do the research. I jumped into this, and thought, okay, I'm the next Shakespeare. This will be great. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. And, on some part of my brain, I knew that, but I thought it would be a little bit simpler than it's turned out to be. Now, bright sides of that, I become a really good editor, which has made me a much better writer. My second book, Gates Redemption, I barely had to do anything because I'd made all the mistakes in the Hill, and I made a lot of them. But I've learned, now I'm getting to podcast, which is something I was always fascinated with. But I'm getting to do it, one, to talk about writing, which is my passion, and two, to help plug my books. Let's be honest. I ain't gonna lie to you folks. Come buy my stuff. If you like horror or satire, come get me. But I've grown through this process. I've learned. I've developed new skills. I've developed marketing skills. I've developed digital marketing skills. we're getting ready to dip our toe into a new arena, probably in October, November of this year, and do some shows. And that's going to be a heartbreaking experience because they say your first couple shows, nobody buys anything. And it's a big cost. One of them we're looking at is like $500 between the booth and electricity. And that's a big cost for somebody with no budget. We're going to have to save up for it. But it's constantly forcing me to grow, to develop, to become better, not just as an author, but to learn all kinds of new skills. And for us indie authors, if you're out there listening and you want to survive, you're going to have to learn all these skills, or you're going to have a lot of money to pay other people to do these things. I'm cheap and basically I'm incapable of doing a lot, but I have an amazing brain and I have willpower. So I'll make it work. It won't be the best. It won't be, $1 million ad campaign, but I'm going to do the absolute best I can with what I've got. As indie authors, that's what we have to do if you want to succeed. Now, for my readers out there, anyone who's interested, who's listening to this from a reader standpoint, please, dear Lord, support your indie authors. You don't always have to buy a book. Some of the best stuff that you can do is engage with their social media. Like take this. Okay, if you're listening to this on Spotify, please download it, subscribe to it, because that tells the algorithm that this podcast is actually getting listeners. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe. We're trying to get fit to 50 so we can do lives on YouTube and bring more content. That simple act doesn't cost you as a reader or as a listener a thing, but it helps an indie author out in more areas than you can imagine. So please, it's a 2-second thing. Find your favorite authors, subscribe, follow, type in a comment, 5 words, I love your books. You don't know how much that will do to help that author. So writing is a labor of love. We love our stories, even as we hate them sometimes. We love giving them to you. Give us a little love back. So before we end this broadcast today, because I've stretched it out 25, which is the longest I think I've been, might be 27 after edits. Remember, J.K. Rowling took 7 years. Stephen King took 9 years. And God-loving Bukowski, however you say it, 20 years, folks. So just don't give up. Keep plugging. Keep engaging with others. Talk to your audience. Talk to other authors. Give a little love, get a little love. I'm Charlie with Hellhound's Run, and I'm going to sign off now. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please like, follow, subscribe, and come to hellhoundsrun.com. Check out our merch, check out our books, read the first chapters for free and see what I'm all about. We're very proud of everything that we've done. We're proud of starting this podcast. We're proud of bringing this content to all of you. And we're very grateful to be here, even as we freeze our butts off just to record this. So y'all have a good day wherever you're at. May the sun shine on you and peace reign in your soul. I'll catch you next time.